Hello and welcome. This is a quick tutorial on Unit 32, focusing on clauses from Series 2 of the Go Grammar textbooks. Let's get stuck into it. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. There are two types of clauses. The first one is a main or independent clause. The second type is the subordinate or dependent clauses. A main or independent clause usually makes sense on its own and expresses the main message of the sentence. For example, the campers returned at twilight. That could be a whole sentence on its own. There can be more than one main clause in a sentence. For example, the national anthem ended and the crowd roared in anticipation of the ensuing contest. This one has two main clauses, and in this case, separated by the conjunction and. A subordinate clause, or a dependent clause, is less important than the main clause in a sentence. It offers extra information, but cannot stand alone. A subordinating conjunction, such as if, that, when, or because, begins the subordinate clause. Clauses can be noun clauses, adjectival clauses, or adverbial clauses, much like the activities you were looking at in some of the previous units. Here's some examples. The campers returned at twilight because, here's our conjunction, they had taken a wrong turn. Now this first bit here, the campers returned at twilight, that could be a whole sentence. If there was a full stop there, that sentence would still make sense. So that's why that's the main clause. This bit here, because they had taken a wrong turn, that's the subordinate clause, because it doesn't make sense on its own. You'll see it in the same example here. After the campers returned to camp, it began to rain. We actually have the term here, after, which is the subordinating conjunction. And part of our sentence over here is the main clause. It began to rain. That's a sentence that makes sense on its own. However, after the campers returned to camp, doesn't function on its own properly. Let's have a look at some of your activities. For question number 1, you're asked to identify whether each sentence below consists of one or two main clauses, or one main clause and one subordinate clause. So you're looking for 3 different variations here. In the first instance, I wanted to watch the horror movie, but it was getting late. There are 2 main clauses, so we've got them separated by a conjunction in this instance. For B, we've got the policeman chased the youths for several minutes. Here, there's only one main clause. I'll give you a bit of a hint with this one. Look out carefully for the conjunctions in these sentences, and I think that'll give you a bit of a clue. For the take it further activities, it does get a little bit more tricky, as it's supposed to. For this part here, for each of the sentences below, it has only 2 clauses, a main clause and a subordinate clause. The subordinate clause is in italics, so it's been identified for you. You have to work out what type of clause it is, whether it's a noun clause, adjectival clause, or adverbial clause. So try and think of the function of the clause that's been identified, and then simply write whether it is noun, adjectival, or adverbial in the space provided. Let's have a look at the first one. I know what you did last summer. In this instance, it's a noun, because it's describing what's known. For the second one, last summer, which seemed so long ago now, was a nightmare. It's providing additional information, additional description, so it's adjectival. See how you go with the other ones. this third one here, when I remember last summer, the nightmares return. It's providing information about the return of the nightmares. So it's describing the verb. Therefore, it's an adverbial phrase. Clause, sorry, not a phrase. It's an adverbial clause. Read through the rest of them and see how you go identifying them. I hope that helped you, and I'll see you for the next tutorial on embedded clauses. This is an ETV production brought to you by Prindiville Catholic College.